Oh, most definitely. I mean, he came back and played some really good footy last week. Really happy with what he did. His movement was really good. He jumped at the ball really strongly, so it was a great sign. After 3 or 4 weeks where he, obviously with the ankle, got that settled down, and we discussed him at match committee, and probably felt in the end, in fairness to Elliot, who's been really good for us in the side, that he didn't perform to the level he wanted to last week, and we give him another opportunity. But yeah, certainly JJ's right in the mix.
I think
talking with him. Out on the ground. Could you share a bit of insight into what you two discussed for a bit?
I was actually talking about. He was telling me he used to strap his own ankles when he was playing basketball up at the Crocodiles. So no, we were just talking in general about obviously selection, just following up with him about how he was feeling and communicating with him. So all fine.
So what's he been told in terms of he's played pretty well, as you said.
Yep.
He's still not inside. So what have you told him he needs to do?
We'll continue to perform the way he performed last week. That's really what it's about. I mean, in the areas that we focused on him. So, you got to remember, he didn't play 2 weeks ago. His ankle. We deloaded him for a couple of weeks. So that was last week was his first full game for 3 weeks. And he played really well, which is great, and continue to do that. And opportunities present. Unfortunately, this week for the guys who miss out, there's no sample game. But it's for him continuing to do what we know he's capable of doing, and look for the next opportunity.
So conceivably he plays sample next week then?
Well, I don't really deal in hypotheticals, to be honest.
We can't do anything to improve.
Well, he can't do anything other than the game he played last week. But we'll see how we perform tomorrow night and take selection from there.
Is it as much about backing Elliot in? Like I said, he had a quite game against Brisbane, but before that he was sort of. He's
been good. Well, there's a bit of that. I mean, and I think. And Josh is understanding enough to know that if he'd put the shoe on the other foot, he'd probably want the support of the match committee if he had a quiet game versus bring someone else in. So that's the position he's in, and but we make the decisions what we think are best for the team week in, week out.
Don, where's Matt Crouch at? Is he going to be 1 week, you think, or a bit longer?
No, we're really hopeful. We were hopeful this week, and he's running fine. So he's settled down really well and was running fine. We put him into some contested stuff yesterday, and it just didn't. It was still a bit jagging him a little bit. So that's going to take a little bit longer to heal than obviously this week. But we're pretty confident at this point he'll be right for next week. But hopefully that thing settles down.
Yeah, it did look like at times he was in a bit of bother. Is that the issue at the moment?
Yeah.
It didn't aggravate it yesterday?
No, he had minor. He just had probably a minor aggravation, but didn't set him back. It was more just it settled down really quickly afterwards. It probably just was a signal that it hadn't fully healed. And when you're dealing with sort of a muscle down around your hip area and you start twisting, that's where the load comes onto it. And as soon as the load came onto it, he just felt it there. So clearly it wasn't right. The pleasing part is he's been able to run and he'll keep running. And once that settles down, he should be good to go next week.
Is it the hip or the abdominal aspect that's causing him the most trouble?
I think it might be
I
think it's more the abdominal aspect, yeah. So where that muscle, I think I explained last week, where the muscle got sort of hit, that's obviously caused some damage there. So that's what needs a little bit more healing. So that rotation movement actually, he's pain free in doing that. And it's not grabbing him. So so we'll be confident he can come up for next week.
Don, what's the message for Bryce? I mean, you clearly at match committee have a much better understanding of the game than we do, but we look at his numbers, we see what he's doing, and it looks like he's playing well. Yeah, well, a lot of the stuff Bryce did last week, we're really happy with. We sit in a situation where we've got a guy that we know is a really talented player that can play some good footy for us, but we need him to play good footy consistently in all the areas of our game, and at the moment he's not doing that consistently. Which I've had conversations with him. He's frustrated and he's disappointed. I expect that out of any time you drop a player, they're frustrated about why they're out of the team. But our challenge from a match committee, and my challenge, is to continue giving complete clarity of what it is we're looking for. And he's got that, and we have those conversations around what that needs to be. So it's in other areas of his game. His numbers, as you're saying, some of the things he did last week, we're really happy with. But the difference between doing it 8 or 9 times out of 10 and doing it 4 or 5 in the other areas is the gap at the moment. That's what we're working with him to bridge. Is it defensive work or?
Well, I don't really want to go into the specifics because that's between me as a player and coach. But he's got some areas of his game that he knows he needs to work on, and we need to get him to a level that's going to be, as I said, for his capacity and his job within his role within the team is to a level whereby that allows him to hold his spot and be the player we know he can be.
So how does he get back to his best? It goes without saying. I mean, at his best, he's in your best 22. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, if he's continually doing the things in the 3 phases of the game that the team requires, yes.
So how does he get from where he is now?
Well, it's a process of working on those things, and clearly identifying is the first one, which we've been able to do, and that's we've been working with him in that space for a while. And it's just a matter of making sure that he continues to bring his great strengths, which we know he has, but the areas which he's not as proficient in, we see an improvement in the consistency he's able to do those things.
Are these things that he's done the majority of his career, though? Is this a surprise that He's come here and he's been, he obviously plays a certain way his whole time at Carlton, and now, this couldn't have caught you off guard, could it?
Well, I think it's areas whereby every player, there's not a player running around the comp that's not sitting there with areas to work on or deficiencies, if you like, in their game, if you want to describe it that way. And he's no different. The reality is those things shouldn't be as big an issue as they are if we can get some consistency in the space of him doing it. And that's really what we're searching for. So we keep working with them. Again, identifying them, giving them the knowledge around what that looks like and understanding, and then it's capacity to be able to do it as on a consistent basis.
Right.
So I was first going to say, so when he was in the team at the start of, when he came across at the start of 2018,
yep,
he was obviously doing those things that you wanted to have.
Well, when we first started, it was he comes into a system and learns to play the way that we want to play, which is different to other teams, and some of the areas we focus on will be different to a Carlton or to a West Coast or to a Collingwood. It's really what we value and what the team requires from individuals in their various roles, whether it be mid or forward or back. So it's been a work in progress for him, and we're looking for continual change to get him in and be that rounded player that we know and we want him to be and he wants to be. So it's just it's a moment in time, and the season goes for the length of the 22 weeks. So we don't get wedded to the fact that it's 1 week he's out, he's in. It's more we need to get him to a point where he's going to be capable of playing the way we need to play consistently, for long periods from here on in, and that's really where we're at and we're working with him on.
How's it that transition? Having played a certain way for 12 years at Carlton and come across to something completely different, having played, like I said, 10 or 12 years one way, is it taking a bit of time to adjust to that?
Well, it's always a transition for every player who changes clubs. That's it, and that's again one of the components that we're working on. Yeah.
Why do you think he's been unable to do the things you say he can do this year?
Well, he's been. I'll rephrase it. He's been able to do them, but it's just not on a consistent basis. That's the reality, and that's what we're working on. The why is, the why's probably out there somewhere in the ether as to, that's maybe never unknown. I don't know, but he's, identifying it's the first thing. It's what we've done. Now, how we working? Sorry.
What consistency are you looking for though? What's he doing wrong that you don't like?
Well, as I said, I don't really want to go into a full debrief of Bryce's Gibbs and the ins and outs of what he's doing well and what he's not. I think I'm respectful of him and our relationship as well. To go, there's some things we're working on, and we get those right, he'll become a consistent and strong player at the footy club. And at the moment, he's just not doing that in those areas.
At his best, Don, where does he fit? Is he more defensively, or is he?
Well, I think he can play, but the beauty is with Bryce, he gives us flexibility. He can play as an inside mid, he can probably play as an outside mid, he can play as a back. So it's he gives us that flexibility, which is why we were really interested and fascinated in trying to get him across to the footy club. So we just got a little bit of work to do. So again, just get the work done and get him sorted, and he'll be back and ready to go, I'm sure, pretty quickly.
No doubt about Rob.
No, Rob's pulled up. He was a little sore, as you imagine, but he's pulled up really well. Been able to train fully. Didn't do a lot this morning, but that was more just based on the fact that had a good run yesterday. So no, he's ready to go.
And Jacobs, 1 week away.
Yeah, Jacobs is he's progressing really well. Spoke to him yesterday, so he's come through, and he looks like he'll play Samford next week and be available, which is fantastic. He's in a really good space, and he's sort of a bit fresh now. He's missed for the first time in his career. He's missed 8 weeks, and he's ready to go. So it'd be good to get him back on deck.
So likely to go through the Samford?
At this stage, he hasn't played since round 2, so probably some match practice for him would be really useful.
And I know Charlie Cameron, obviously a very good player, had a bit of, said, the exit meeting, he wanted to prove a few points.
Yeah.
What did you make of those comments?
Oh, well, I'm not sure what the exit meeting he's talking about, to be honest, but, we had a conversation with Charlie before we traded him, which was basically about 15 minutes before the trade deadline, so I didn't call it an exit interview. We were just talking about what we thought, where Charlie was potentially going to be best suited to play his best footy, and we felt that was in Adelaide, which was clearly where we sat as a contracted player. In the end, we decided to trade Charlie, and he's moved up to Brisbane, and good luck to him.
Cole Harding, obviously, big enough last week, concussion, got through it okay this week?
All fine. Yep, he's still got a bit of a cut on his head, but he's passed his protocols, and he's fit and ready to go.
Paul Sands and Richard Douglas, just sort of thought you wanted to give him, obviously, we didn't want to also change a team that's performed pretty well the last 5 weeks.
Well, Dougie's come back, obviously off that ankle syndesmosis, and he needed the run, and Paul had the run as well. So those guys they're pushing up, and we're keen to get Paul back into the team, to be honest. And Dougie's probably going to take a little longer, given that ankle injury, and how he's coming back from that. So he'll be right to go next week, but he wasn't really ready to come up this week.
And Don, given the guys,
Go.
I was going to say, given the guys you've left out, has this been one of the hardest selection committees you've had? A good problem to have, no doubt, but
yeah,
has it been one of the toughest you've
well,
had?
it's always difficult, and again, we when we sit down as a match committee and we assess the team, we're looking for a balanced team that's performed well, and find that balance between backing in guys and continue to back guys and that we know have performed well. And you know, we had a disappointing loss last week by a point, but the 4 weeks before that, you know, a lot of guys put in some really solid performances. And then you've got on the counter, you've got guys coming back who have got some match practice but not a lot, and you're weighing all those up as to what's the best interest. All I can say is at the end of it, the decisions we make are what we consider the best interest of the team, and that's really what our obligation is to do, is to go, look, you know, as much as this name might look good, this guy's actually playing his role really well, being really strong, being a strong influence in the games, and so, you know, selection sort of hopefully reflects that.
I was asked about the Eagles. Have you looked at what Port did? I think Kevin called
Yep.
a dirty ball, not getting denied in their intercept marks and defence. Have you looked at what they've done and employ some of that? Or?
Yeah, we've had a look back at a few of the games with West Coast this year, and look, West Coast clearly is one of the benchmark teams of the comp. I mean, you win the premiership last year; they're 6-3 this year. We know their intercept markers down back, whether it be McGovern or Hearn or Shepherd, love to roll off and do that. So we've got some plans in place to how we do that. I'm sure every side does. It's now your ability to execute those plans. But clearly that's one of their strengths.
You look at what Port Adelaide did earlier this season when they played what they call dirty ball by kicking
Yep.
the ball in sort of on the ground into the 40-50 to deny that defence.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. And looking back at that game, I don't know if they actually kicked it as low and on the ground as was sort of mentioned in the commentary, but certainly they were mindful of how they kicked the ball in and how they're able to engage, if you like, the West Coast defenders. So there's something in that. And again, we're different. So we'll come up with our own plan and we'll see how we execute it.
Don, just a couple of left field ones. Sorry, just to finish off. Junior footy.
Yep.
It's got to the stage where people aren't scoring in junior
Yep.
footy. You would have played a lot of competitive junior footy. Have we all learned to play the game? But
Yeah.
you have a thought on whether it's good for the game that junior kids are playing without scores?
Well, it depends on what age. I mean, I think clearly participation, in my view, and this is my personal view, participation is what we want to see. We want to see kids playing footy. I think we're also naive. We think the kids don't know the score, to be honest. And I think it's healthy at a certain age. Well, I don't know what that age is, but I think it's healthy at a certain age for kids to be exposed to the concept of winning and losing, and not as being as a the emotions shouldn't be as large if you win or you lose. So you shouldn't. That's just part of it. I think that's part of actually understanding that in life, it doesn't matter if you go for a job, someone's going to get the job, someone's going to miss out on it. That's what happens. Now, at what age they need to be exposed to the reality of winning and losing? That's probably the debate.
Is there a case to be made that you learn more from a loss and you can equally learn stuff at a win? It's probably good to start the kids off.
Yeah, well, out of a loss you can learn a little bit of dignity, a bit of out of a win you learn humility, you learn understanding of games. It ultimately becomes a game, but the games, whether it be football, cricket, golf, they're all little lessons in life, and that's what I think younger kids can be exposed to. That they understand that the world's not all about just winning the whole time. It's just about or participating. There is if you like, the emotions that go with either winning or losing. But as I said, I don't know what age that is, and if you're talking 7-year-olds, maybe that's too young. But if you're talking 15-year-olds, well, maybe that's too old in terms of not being exposed to that. The last, if I could just say one other thing, obviously tomorrow's Indigenous round, so a really exciting round for us as a club, and obviously for the comp. And I think it's a wonderful celebration that we get a chance in this round to not only reflect on, not only enjoy the feats of the current Indigenous players, but reflect on those of the past. And we've had some fantastic Indigenous players influence our game in a massive way. And I've been fortunate in my career as both a player and as a coach to come across some of the great Indigenous players we've had. So we look forward to that as an exciting day for our footy club and for the whole industry. And on top of that, we've obviously got tomorrow a collection outside the ground for Kickstart for Kids, which is aimed at our members hopefully bringing along and donating some clothing for kids who are 8 to 14 who aren't in a situation where they've got ability to clothe themselves or put shoes on their feet. So I encourage all of our members to get behind the drive, support it, bring along some clothes for those kids, because a lot of those kids happen to be Indigenous as well, and it's a great opportunity for us to do something for those in our community that can use a bit of help through the winter. So get behind it and come and support your team.
Just on that, Don, great to have Wayne Malera back in terms of playing Once he started half back, played like maybe half forward before he got injured.
Yeah.
Where do you sort of see him?
Yeah, well, look, we think Wayne's one of those guys who can play, you know, from half forward through to half back and midfield, and we were super keen to get him back in the team. I mean, he brings a real energy and a real drive around the ball, and we think he's going to be a good player. So, you know, he's come through that shoulder really well, and I know he's excited about obviously coming back to play, but probably a little bit of a boost being Indigenous round as well. So, look forward to having him back in the team.
Are you across Eddie's boots issue?
No, I'm not, mate. Sorry.
No.